In the morning, around 8 a.m., inside the White Hall of Ashbourne Keep, Helena Vale had 12 minutes to stop a black-silver ledger from being sealed for 50 years. If she failed, 37 dead women would disappear from royal history, and the one man with the authority to save their names had already ordered guards to remove her. Archivist Vale, Alpha King Ronan Thorne said from the treaty dais, "Step away from the record." Helena did not move. Nearly 600 witnesses filled the White Hall. Pack leaders, judges, foreign envoys, and families of women erased from official history. At the center stood an evidence table holding the winter ledger, bound in gray hide and locked by a clasp darker than iron. Helena placed one palm beside it. "No," she said. The word carried farther than she intended. Ronan's expression remained controlled, but she saw the warning in the slight tightening of his jaw. At 52, he had ruled 11 years without losing a border or a public argument. Silver marked his black hair at the temples, and his gray eyes revealed nothing. "Your allotted testimony is over." My allotted testimony was reduced from 1 hour to 12 minutes. The council ruled on admissibility. The council has not seen the names. A ripple moved through the hall. That was why Helena had chosen the treaty ceremony. The annual gathering of packs was the only event where the crown could not clear the room without insulting every territory present. After 23 years cataloging decrees, casualty rolls, and sealed complaints, she knew institutions hid shame behind procedure and called the silence lawful. Ronan descended one step from the dais. "You were instructed to submit the ledger for private review." "I did. 3 times. And each time, the chain of custody was disputed. By the keeper of royal memory." Lady Octavia Thorne sat to Ronan's right beneath a crown of white braids. At 70, the king's aunt had served 4 rulers. She did not look at Helena. She looked only at the ledger. Helena noticed that. She also noticed Octavia's right thumb pressing hard against the side of her index finger, the small motion she made whenever a document frightened her. Ronan followed Helena's gaze. "This is not the place. This is the only place left." Behind Helena, Elsbeth Marr began to cry. Her daughter, a healer supposedly dead of fever, appeared beneath a false name beside the words "bond severance ordered." Ronan's eyes sharpened. "Do not turn grief into spectacle." Helena's chest tightened, but she kept her voice level. "The spectacle happened when women died and the crown changed their names." The hall went quiet enough for the treaty clock to be heard. 8 minutes. Deputy Recorder Nora Wren stood near the evidence rail, a brass hearing bell against her blue uniform. 34 and partially deaf after an archive fire, she had carried Helena's petitions to 6 committees and watched them vanish. Now Nora met Helena's eyes and gave the smallest nod. The lower drawer of the evidence table was unlocked. Helena had not asked her to do that. Ronan saw the exchange. "Deputy Wren, step back." Nora obeyed, but too slowly. His gaze returned to Helena. "You are crossing a line. You drew the line around the truth and called everything outside it treason." A flicker passed through his face, not anger, hurt. Only Helena knew the private man beneath the crown, the one who read policy drafts beside her until dawn, and had spent 2 years building a secret bond because the council would not accept a wolfless woman beside the throne. He had never promised to choose her over the kingdom. That omission had become its own answer. Ronan turned toward the gathered leaders. "The document before us contains disputed entries, irregular inks, and seals that do not match the dates claimed. Until authentication is complete, no responsible ruler would allow it to provoke war." Helena opened the table drawer. Inside lay 37 ivory name slips, each no longer than her smallest finger. Gasps broke across the hall. Ronan went still. Helena had copied each erased name by hand and wrapped every slip in the color of the woman's birth pack. Red for Ember Ridge, green for Hollow Creek, white for Northwatch. Some families had never received bodies. Others had been threatened into silence. Helena lifted the first slip. "Maris Bell," she said, 29, midwife, petitioned for sanctuary after her mate broke her wrist. Official cause of death, winter fever. Elsbeth Marr covered her mouth. Helena lifted another. June Halden, 41, schoolmistress. Filed 3 complaints against a council heir. Official status, voluntarily relocated. A man near the Western delegation whispered, "She was my sister." Ronan came down the remaining steps. Enough. His alpha command struck like a pressure change. Lower-ranked wolves bowed, but the command found no animal inside wolfless Helena to control. She remained upright. Ronan stopped 3 feet away. For the first time, uncertainty entered his eyes. Helena set the slips in a line across the table. "You wanted authentication. Let the families authenticate them. You do not know what releasing those names will trigger. I know what burying them already did. Border pacts are armed. 3 treaties depend on the legitimacy of this court. If your evidence is wrong, and if it is right, neither of them looked away. The question belonged to every future he had postponed until the kingdom became less fragile. It never had. Lady Octavia Rose. Her cane struck the floor once. "Your Majesty," she said, "the archivist has violated royal protocol, compromised sealed material, and incited foreign delegations. The law requires immediate removal." Helena watched Ronan carefully. This was the moment. He could pause the ceremony. He could order independent review. He could stand beside her without claiming the ledger was true, only that the dead deserved examination. Instead, he chose stability. "Helena Vale," he said, formal enough to make her name sound borrowed. "You have placed private conviction above the safety of the realm." A murmur traveled through the audience. Helena's fingers curled against the edge of the table. "Private conviction? You were entrusted with the royal archive. I protected it. You removed sealed property. I preserved evidence scheduled for destruction." His voice lowered. "You asked me to trust you without proof. No. I asked you to stop destroying the proof." The silence between them hardened. Ronan looked toward the treaty delegates, then toward the council, then finally back to her. When he spoke again, his words carried the ritual cadence reserved for acts that could not be undone. "I revoke Helena Vale's standing as royal archivist. I withdraw the private bond previously recognized between us. Until this ledger is lawfully examined, she will hold no claim upon my court, my protection, or my name." The hall reacted in one collective breath. Helena did not. Pain moved through her with eerie calm. Their bond had not been magic, but promises, choices, and the dangerous intimacy of being known. He had made all of it sound procedural. Ronan's face was pale beneath the ceremonial lights. He had wounded himself, too. That did not lessen what he had done. Helena unclasped the silver chain, holding her archive key. A gift from the night Ronan admitted he trusted her more than his counsel. She placed it beside the ledger. "You are free of my claim," she said. "You are not free of the consequences." Then she turned toward the families. "I will continue outside the crown." 2 guards approached, but Ronan lifted a hand. They stopped. Helena gathered the ivory slips. As she reached for the ledger, Octavia's composure broke. "Do not touch the clasp." The warning came too quickly. Every face in the hall turned toward her. Octavia recovered at once. "It is unstable. The metal was forged before modern binding laws." Helena looked down at the black-silver clasp. Its surface held 2 grooves shaped like script. One bore the coronation oath, "I preserve the realm." The other had been scratched almost smooth. Nora moved closer to the evidence rail. Her brass hearing bell gave a faint chime as it struck the buckle at her waist. The clasp answered. A low metallic note vibrated through the hall. Helena's pulse quickened. Ronan heard it too. "What was that?" Nora touched the bell, confused. It rang the night of the archive fire. Octavia's hand tightened around her cane. "Remove the ledger now." Helena understood then. The ledger was not merely locked. It was waiting. She looked at Ronan. "Say your coronation oath." His eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because your aunt is afraid you will." Octavia stepped forward. "Ronan, this is manipulation." Helena placed 2 fingers over the first groove. "You accused me before 600 witnesses. Authenticate the object." Ronan studied the clasp, then Octavia. The treaty clock struck 9. His 12-minute limit had expired. He should have ended the ceremony. Instead, perhaps because Octavia had shown fear, or because some part of him still trusted the woman he had just cast out, he spoke. "I preserve the realm." The first groove filled with pale gold light. Cries rose from the delegations. The second groove remained dark. Helena leaned closer. Beneath years of scratches, 4 words emerged. "I preserve the truth." "That is not a royal oath," Ronan said. No, Helena replied. It is an archivist's oath. Octavia moved with startling speed for a woman of 70. She reached for the ledger. Nora swung the evidence rail shut between them. The brass bells struck iron. Its note rang clear. Helena placed her palm on the second groove. I preserve the truth. The clasp opened, not with a click, but with a sound like a held breath finally released. The ledger's pages turned on their own until they reached a sheet sealed to the back cover. A dark red signature stained the parchment, unmistakable beneath the royal crest. Ronan stared at it. His father's name was written in blood. Beneath it, in the dead king's hand, were 7 words. The women were not lost. We erased them. The words remained exposed beneath the ceremonial lights. The women were not lost. We erased them. No one moved. Ronan reached for the page, but Helena closed the ledger before his fingers touched it. You no longer control the evidence, she said. His gaze lifted to hers. The king who had just stripped her of office stood surrounded by witnesses, yet the moment between them felt brutally private. That is my father's hand. I know. He died believing the realm owed him loyalty. Perhaps he learned too late that loyalty without truth is only obedience. A border leader demanded that the ledger be reopened. Another called for the treaty ceremony to be suspended. Families surged toward the evidence table while royal guards formed an uncertain line, unwilling to use force against grieving citizens under the eyes of foreign delegations. Octavia struck her cane against the floor. The page proves nothing. A signature may be copied. Blood may be preserved. Archivist Vale has already demonstrated her willingness to violate the law. Former archivist, Helena said. The title landed harder than accusation. Ronan looked toward the council. Seal the hall. No one leaves with copies, names, or messages until the document is examined. The doors closed. Helena's jaw tightened. You are imprisoning 600 witnesses. I am preventing panic from reaching armed territories before we know what is true. You always find a noble word for control, and you always assume disclosure is harmless. No. I assume the people harmed by silence deserve a voice in the risk. Their eyes held, attraction and anger bound so tightly Helena could no longer separate them. Nora stepped beside the table. There is an examination chamber beneath the Eastern Archive. No council access. Original stone. No speaking tubes. No copying mirrors. Octavia turned on her. You do not advise the crown. I am the deputy recorder assigned to this evidence. You are a clerk with damaged hearing. Nora touched the brass bell at her waist. Damage is not incompetence. Ronan's expression darkened. Enough. Helena, you will examine the ledger under guard. Nora will document every finding. My aunt will represent the crown. No. Octavia's face hardened. Helena continued. Lady Octavia has challenged the ledger's authenticity since the first petition. She cannot supervise the evidence she tried to bury. You are in no position to dictate terms, Ronan said. Then arrest me publicly and explain why the only person trained to authenticate pre-unification records is forbidden from examining one. He glanced at the closed doors and the delegates beyond the guard line. She watched him calculate the cost. You will have 1 additional observer, he said. Helena named the only man whose memory of the archive rivaled her own. Silas Gray. Octavia's cane stopped moving. That was answer enough. Silas had served as royal scribe before disappearing after the archive fire 9 years earlier. Most believed him dead. Helena knew he lived in a monastery beyond the Western Ridge because he had sent her 3 anonymous corrections written in a cipher only they shared. Ronan's stare sharpened. You know where he is. I know how to reach him. You concealed a fugitive witness. I protected a witness your court had already declared guilty. Octavia's voice went cold. Silas Gray set the fire that destroyed 7 centuries of records. Then he should be eager to prove it. Ronan ordered a mounted escort before Octavia could object. By dawn, Helena, Ronan, Nora, and 4 royal guards rode west through the Cedar Pass. No one spoke for the first hour. Ronan kept his horse beside Helena's, close enough to shield her from the drop along the mountain road, distant enough to honor the rejection he had made public. Helena hated that she noticed. At the monastery gate, Silas Gray was waiting. He was 46, broad-shouldered beneath a plain brown coat, with ink stains that no amount of mountain water had removed from his fingers. His dark beard had gone silver along the chin. He looked at Helena first, then at Ronan. So the ledger finally opened. Ronan dismounted. "You knew? I knew it could. You will return to Ashbourne under royal authority." Silas smiled without warmth. "Your father used the same phrase before he ordered me to rewrite death certificates." The guards shifted. Ronan did not. "You are accusing a dead king. I am answering a living one." Helena stepped between them. "We need facts, not inherited pride." Silas's expression softened at the sound of her voice. "Still rescuing institutions from the men who run them? No. I may finally be learning to let them fall." The Eastern examination chamber had no windows and only one door. By afternoon, the winter ledger lay beneath white mineral lamps while Nora recorded each movement with wax tablets and numbered seals. Helena tested the ink first. The earliest entries contained iron gall aged more than 40 years. Later pages contained a synthetic binder invented only 12 years earlier. Ronan leaned over the table. "So parts were forged." "Inserted," Helena corrected. "Not necessarily forged." She compared 3 entries under magnification. Each named a woman who had petitioned against a senior official. Each carried an identical slant in the final letter. Silas recognized it. "My hand." The room went still. Octavia had been barred from the chamber. Yet Helena felt her influence as clearly as if the older woman stood behind them. Ronan's voice became dangerously quiet. "You wrote false entries." "I copied names I was given." "By whom?" Silas looked at Helena. That hesitation changed the room. Helena's stomach tightened. "Say it." "You?" Ronan turned toward her. Silas opened a cloth packet and placed 3 letters on the table. They bore Helena's old archive seal and contained instructions to add names, change dates, and hide the originals within the winter ledger. Her signature appeared at the bottom of each page. Nora stopped writing. Helena examined the first letter. The seal was genuine. The paper came from her former office. Even the phrasing imitated her habits. But one sentence contained a mistake. "Preserve the record at all costs." Helena had never used that phrase. Her oath was "preserve the truth." "This was made from materials taken from my office," she said. "Someone built a case years before I found the ledger." Ronan did not accuse her, but he did not defend her. That hurt more. Silas watched him. "There it is. The Crown's favorite silence. Not belief. Not disbelief. Just enough doubt to justify restraint." Ronan's hand closed around the forged letter. 37 deaths and a conspiracy inside my archive demand more than instinct. "She gave you 23 years of verified service," Silas said. "How much evidence does a woman need before her character counts?" Helena raised a hand. "Stop speaking for me." Silas's face tightened. "I need your testimony," she said. "Not your protection." Something like pride moved through his eyes. "Then listen carefully. I did not start the fire. I was ordered to remove 9 boxes before it began. When I returned, the west wing was burning, and the guards were already calling my name." "Who gave the order?" Ronan asked. Silas looked toward Nora's brass bell, the deputy recorder before her. Nora's breathing changed. "My mother held that office." Silas nodded. Nora stepped back from the table. "She died in the fire." "No," he said. "She escaped with 1 box." Nora's face emptied. Helena understood the new danger before anyone spoke. If Nora's mother had survived, the official casualty list was false. The conspiracy had not merely erased victims. It had created dead people who could disappear beyond the court's reach. A guard entered with a sealed message from the capital. Ronan broke it open. His expression hardened as he read. "What happened?" Helena asked. "The border packs have received copies of the first 37 names. That is impossible." The hall was sealed. Someone transmitted them before the doors closed. Ronan looked toward the evidence seals, then toward Silas. The former scribe did not deny it. Helena's voice dropped. "What did you do?" "What you were too careful to do," Silas replied. "I sent the names to every territory represented in the hall." Nora whispered. "Families could start hunting officials before we confirm responsibility. They have waited decades." "You used me," Helena said. "I used the opening you created." Ronan reached for the ledger. "You are under arrest." Silas moved first. He seized the winter ledger, drove his shoulder into the nearest guard, and crossed the chamber before anyone recovered. Helena caught his sleeve at the door. "Do not make me choose between the truth and protecting you." His eyes met hers. "You already chose the truth." He tore free and handed the ledger to Octavia, who stood waiting in the corridor with 12 council guards. For one terrible second, Helena could not understand what she was seeing. Octavia accepted the book without surprise. Silas stepped to her side. Ronan drew his ceremonial blade. Octavia raised one hand. "The council has invoked the continuity statute. Until the threat of civil conflict passes, all disputed royal evidence returns to the coronation vault." Helena looked at Silas. "Why?" His expression gave her nothing. Octavia turned away with the ledger. Ronan could have ordered his guards to attack the council. Instead, he sheathed his blade. Helena stared at him. "You are letting her take it. If I spill council blood in the archive, every accusation becomes a succession crisis. So your throne still comes first. My people come first." Those words stopped meaning anything the moment you used them to reject me. Pain flashed across his face, but he gave the order anyway. "Helena Vale is to remain in the eastern residence under royal guard until the Assembly of Pax convenes." She laughed once, quietly. "Protective custody? Légal confinement. At least call the cage by its proper name." That night, Helena stood behind locked doors while bells rang across Ashbourne, announcing that 3 border packs had suspended allegiance to the crown. Nora entered carrying a meal Helena did not touch. "My mother may be alive," Nora said. "Yes. And Silas may have betrayed all of us." "Yes." Nora placed her brass hearing bell on the table. Inside its hollow handle, something rattled. They unscrewed the cap and found a tightly rolled strip of paper, yellowed with age. Nora's mother had hidden it there before the archive fire. The message contained 7 names missing from the winter ledger. The final name belonged to Lady Octavia Thorne, not as an accused official, as one of the women officially declared dead 39 years earlier. Helena read the line twice. Octavia had not inherited the system of erased identities. She had survived it, and somewhere between victim and keeper of royal memory, she had decided to preserve the machine that had once erased her. Should Helena expose the truth if it could destroy an entire kingdom, or protect innocent people from the chaos that truth might cause, and why? Helena folded the strip of paper and placed it inside her sleeve. Nora watched her from across the locked room. "What are you going to do?" "The assembly meets at noon. You are confined. So was your mother." Helena crossed to the narrow window overlooking the eastern courtyard. Council guards stood at both exits. Above them, the coronation tower rose over Ashbourne Keep, its black stone walls holding the vault where Octavia had taken the ledger. Helena had spent half her life cataloging the crown's safeguards. She knew every official entrance. Nora picked up the brass bell. "There is no way into that tower without the king's blood seal. There is another way." The old service stair collapsed in the fire. "According to the report your mother signed." Nora understood. The report was false. At sunrise, Ronan entered alone. He had removed his ceremonial coat. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms, and exhaustion had hollowed the skin beneath his eyes. He set Helena's archive key on the table between them. "I revoked your office," he said. "I had no right to keep this." Helena did not touch it. "Why are you here?" "The council intends to present the ledger as evidence of your conspiracy. They will argue that you planted the names to break the border treaties and seize influence through me. Will you let them?" "No." The answer came without hesitation. Helena searched his face. "What changed?" "Nothing that should have needed changing." He looked toward Nora. "I signed orders at dawn releasing every sealed complaint connected to the 37 women. I also suspended the continuity statute. The council can remove you for that." "I know." "And the border leaders?" "I invited them into the assembly with full speaking rights." Helena felt the shape of his decision before he said it. Ronan continued, "At noon, I will confess that I rejected your evidence to protect the institution that concealed it. I will submit the throne to a public confidence vote." Nora inhaled softly. Helena remained still. "You may lose the crown. I may deserve to." There was no performance in the words. No plea for comfort. That mattered. It did not erase the White Hall. "You are doing this because you think it will bring me back," Helena said. "No." His voice broke slightly, but he did not look away. "I am doing it because you were right before I knew whether you would ever forgive me." The room fell quiet. Ronan pushed the archive key closer. You asked me once what kind of king I wanted history to remember. I gave you an answer about peace. It was a coward's answer. Helena finally picked up the key. Peace built on erased women is not peace. I know. Knowing after the harm does not undo it. I know that too. She believed him. Trust was another matter. Helena told him about the strip hidden inside Nora's bell. She did not show him the original. Instead, she recited the 7 names and watched his expression change when she reached Octavia's. My aunt was declared dead at 19. Ronan looked toward the tower. She told me her family sent her abroad after a scandal. She built her entire authority on a false identity. Or someone gave her one. Helena nodded. That is the final question. Ronan's jaw tightened. Come to the assembly beside me. No. The refusal landed between them. You publicly removed my standing, Helena said. I will not return to that hall as a woman restored by your invitation. What do you need? Access to the tower. No escort. No interference. That vault is protected by royal oath. So was the ledger. He studied her for a long moment, then removed the signet ring from his hand. It carried the living blood seal of the crown. If you use this, he said, the council will know I helped you. They will know soon enough. He placed the ring in her palm. This time, Helena accepted it. The collapsed service stair still existed behind a false wall in the old map room. Nora found the release by striking her brass bell against 3 carved stones. The wall opened on a passage thick with ash and undisturbed dust. My mother designed this, Nora whispered. No, Helena said, studying the brickwork. She preserved it. They climbed in darkness until they reached the underside of the coronation vault. The king's ring opened the first lock. Nora's bell opened the second. The third had no keyhole, only 2 engraved lines. I preserve the realm. I preserve the truth. Helena spoke both. The door opened. Inside, the winter ledger rested on a stone pedestal beneath a glass cover. Around it stood 9 wooden boxes marked with the insignia of the archive fire. Silas emerged from behind the final row. Nora reached for the knife at her belt. Helena stopped her. Silas looked older than he had the day before. I wondered whether you would understand. You handed the ledger to Octavia. I put it in the only room containing the records she could not destroy without exposing herself. He opened the nearest box. Inside were sanctuary petitions, corrected death rolls, witness statements, and letters signed by women officially recorded as dead. Nora found one written in her mother's hand. Her knees nearly gave way. She lived 12 years after the fire, Silas said. She moved survivors through safe houses beyond the border. When she died, Octavia recovered the network and converted it into a system of permanent erasure. Helena stared at him. Why? Because Octavia believed hidden women were living women. That explains the first years, Helena said. Not the later deaths. Silas opened another box. The records changed halfway through. Early entries showed abused women given new names and safe passage. Later entries listed forced separations, political detentions, and deaths disguised as voluntary relocation. The sanctuary had become a weapon. Your king's father discovered the change, Silas said. He signed the ledger as confession, not authorization. He planned to expose Octavia during the assembly 9 years ago, the night of the fire. Nora whispered. Silas nodded. Helena felt the final truth settle into place. Octavia had once survived because someone erased her. She had mistaken secrecy for salvation, then expanded that secrecy until no woman could choose whether to disappear. The first bell of the assembly sounded below. Silas reached for the ledger. We take everything. No, Helena said. He stared at her. If we carry 9 boxes into a hostile hall, the council will claim contamination. We need Octavia to identify the system herself. How? Helena looked at the fire vents built into the vault walls. By giving her the choice she has made for 39 years. The assembly of packs filled the White Hall by noon. Ronan stood before the throne without his crown. The empty chair behind him caused more whispers than any speech could have. Octavia sat with the council, composed beneath her white braids. She began by accusing Helena of forgery, sedition, and manipulation of the king. Then Helena entered through the central doors, carrying the winter ledger. Nora walked beside her with one wooden box. Silas followed. The hall erupted. Octavia rose. So fast hurricane fell. You opened the vault. Helena placed the ledger on the evidence table. Yes, that evidence is compromised. Then perhaps you should explain why the vault contains letters from women your records declare dead. Nora opened the box. Elsbeth Marr stepped forward from the crowd and recognized her daughter's handwriting. A cry tore from her chest. Other families surged closer as Nora lifted letter after letter. Octavia's face changed. Not guilt. Grief. You do not understand what those records protected, she said. Then tell them. Helena replied. Octavia looked across the families. I was 19 when my mate's father ordered my death. The crown gave me another name, another life. Erasure saved me. And because it saved you, Helena said, you decided no woman should ever choose whether she vanished. The packs would have hunted them. Some needed concealment. Others needed justice. Justice would have started wars. So you imprisoned witnesses. I prevented bloodshed. You changed sanctuary into silence. Octavia's control finally cracked. I kept this kingdom alive while men wore crowns and congratulated themselves for peace. The truth was now public. Ronan closed his eyes for one brief second. Helena opened the ledger to the final page. Your brother tried to stop you. He was weak. He was king. He wanted applause for confessing after years of benefiting from the system. The words struck Ronan, but he accepted them without defense. Octavia turned toward the council guards. Seize the evidence. No one moved. Ronan stepped away from the throne. Stand down. Octavia faced him. You will lose everything. Yes. He lifted the crown from its cushion. The hall fell silent. Ronan carried it down the dais and placed it on the evidence table beside the winter ledger. The metal struck stone with a clean, final sound. I rejected Helena Vale's testimony because I feared disorder more than injustice, he said. I used the authority of this crown to discredit a woman whose service had earned my trust. Effective immediately, I abdicate and submit myself to the judgment of this assembly. Gasps broke through the hall. Octavia stared at the crown. Then at the open vents above the evidence table, Helena saw the decision form in her eyes. Octavia snatched a ceremonial candle and threw it into the wooden box. Flame caught the old paper. Nora rang the brass bell. Hidden shutters opened in the ceiling, and clear water poured through the fire vents, extinguishing the flames before they spread. At the same moment, copies of the letters dropped from the upper gallery into the hands of every delegation. Helena had prepared them in the vault. Octavia stood drenched beside the smoking evidence, caught not by accusation but by her own choice to destroy it. The council guards lowered their weapons. Her system ended because, when given one final chance, she chose erasure again. 6 months later, the independent archive of PAC testimony opened in a renovated courthouse beyond royal territory. Helena directed it under a charter no king could revoke. Nora became its first chief recorder. Silas testified publicly and accepted a sentence of supervised service for the false entries he had written, even though coercion had shaped his choices. Ronan lived without title in a small house near the northern border. He spent his days helping families recover property taken through sealed decrees. He never asked Helena to visit. She went when she was ready. He opened the door wearing a plain gray shirt, his hands stained with ink from restitution forms. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. I forgive the man who was afraid, Helena said. I do not yet trust the man who let fear rule me. Ronan nodded. Then I will not ask for what I have not earned. She stepped inside, not as his Luna, not as a reward for sacrifice. As a woman choosing to see whether consistent action could build something truth had not destroyed. Some wounds deserve forgiveness. Reconciliation, however, must be earned through honesty, responsibility, and respect for the boundaries of the person who was harmed. Would you have forgiven Ronan, or was giving up the crown still not enough? Share your answer in the comments, and subscribe for more mature Alpha King romances where love is proven by actions, not promises.